Buddhism is replete with teachings on understanding and controlling emotions, emphasizing mindfulness, detachment, and inner peace. One of the most influential stories regarding emotional control comes from the life of Siddhartha Gautama, the Buddha, whose teachings illuminate a pathway toward mastering one's emotions. Introduction. Understanding emotional control in Buddhism. Emotions are part of the human experience, yet they can often become the root of suffering. Buddha's teachings focus on understanding the mind, identifying the causes of suffering, and cultivating peace through mindfulness and wisdom. Emotional control, according to Buddhism, doesn't mean suppressing feelings, but understanding their transient nature and cultivating detachment. One of the central tenets of Buddhism is the Four Noble Truths. These truths explain that life contains suffering, dukkha, that suffering arises from attachment, samudaya, that suffering can end, nirodha, and that the path to end suffering is through the Eightfold Path, magga. Buddha's insight into emotions lies in understanding attachment and aversion as the root causes of emotional turmoil. His life story provides powerful examples of how one can control emotions through awareness, detachment, and compassion. The story of Angulimala, the transformation of hatred and violence. One of the most famous stories from Buddha's life that teaches the control of emotions is the story of Angulimala, a violent bandit who was transformed by Buddha's compassion. Angulimala was a notorious criminal during the Buddha's time, feared for his violence and merciless killing. He was known for wearing a necklace of the fingers, hence the name Angulimala, which means finger garland, of those he had murdered. His intense anger, hatred, and frustration fueled his violent outbursts, making him one of the most feared figures in ancient India. The story begins with Angulimala terrorizing a region, slaughtering anyone he encountered. His primary motivation was rage, and he had vowed to collect 1,000 fingers as trophies. One day, as Buddha passed through the forest where Angulimala dwelled, the bandit saw the calm and composed figure of the Buddha and decided to make him his next victim. He chased after the Buddha, but no matter how fast he ran, he could not catch up with him. Finally, in frustration, he shouted, "Stop, ascetic!" The Buddha, without turning back, calmly replied, "I have stopped, Angulimala. It is you who have not stopped." Perplexed by this statement, Angulimala demanded an explanation. Buddha explained that he had stopped chasing after hatred, violence, and suffering, while Angulimala, consumed by anger and aggression, had not. These words pierced Angulimala's heart. In a moment of clarity, he realized the futility of his actions, the pain he caused, and the suffering within him. He fell to his knees and asked the Buddha for forgiveness. This moment of transformation shows the power of self-awareness and mindfulness. Buddha didn't condemn Angulimala or meet his violence with violence. Instead, he used calmness and wisdom to make Angulimala confront his own inner turmoil. By recognizing the root of his hatred and violence, Angulimala was able to change. He later became one of Buddha's disciples and spent the rest of his life practicing compassion and mindfulness. The lesson of emotional control. The story of Angulimala teaches that emotions like anger, hatred, and fear are often byproducts of ignorance and attachment. Angulimala's transformation reveals that by understanding the source of these emotions, we can control and eventually transcend them. Buddha's compassionate approach shows that even the most destructive emotions can be overcome through mindfulness, wisdom, and kindness. Buddhism does not advocate the suppression of emotions, but encourages awareness of them. Emotional control is achieved not through force, but by cultivating insight into the nature of emotions. In Buddhism, all emotions are seen as transient, impermanent states of mind. Through mindfulness, sati and meditation, bhavana, one can observe emotions as they arise and let them go without being attached to them. This approach is encapsulated in the concept of equanimity, upekkha, a mental state where one remains balanced in the face of both positive and negative emotions. The parable of the angry man, understanding anger. Another famous Buddhist parable on emotional control involves a man who comes to the Buddha in anger, intending to insult him. Buddha, calm and unaffected, responds with wisdom that teaches a profound lesson about the nature of anger. A man approached the Buddha and, without provocation, began to insult him. He called the Buddha derogatory names and tried to provoke him with hurtful words. The Buddha remained calm, not reacting to the man's insults. After a while, the man, puzzled by the Buddha's lack of response, asked, "Why do you not respond to my insults?" The Buddha replied, "If someone offers you a gift and you refuse to accept it, to whom does the gift belong?" The man answered, "To the one who offered it." Buddha smiled and said, "In the same way, I do not accept your anger and insults. They remain with you." This simple yet profound parable illustrates how emotions like anger are often projected onto others. However, the Buddha's teachings show that we do not have to accept or internalize these emotions. By practicing mindfulness, we can recognize when someone is trying to provoke us and choose not to react. The Buddha's calm response to the angry man highlights how emotional control stems from a place of inner peace and understanding. The role of meditation in emotional control. A central practice in Buddhism for controlling emotions is meditation. Buddha himself attained enlightenment through deep meditation, and his teachings emphasize the importance of mindfulness as a tool for emotional control. Mindfulness meditation, vipassana, involves observing one's thoughts, feelings, and bodily sensations without judgment. When practiced regularly, this meditation helps individuals become more aware of their emotions as they arise. For example, if one feels anger, instead of reacting impulsively, mindfulness allows one to step back, observe the sensation of anger, and recognize it as a temporary state. Loving kindness meditation, metabhavana, is another practice that can help with emotional control, particularly in dealing with feelings of anger, resentment, or hatred. In this meditation, one cultivates feelings of love and compassion toward oneself and others, even toward those who have caused harm. This practice helps dissolve feelings of animosity and replaces them with feelings of empathy and kindness. The middle way, balancing emotions. Buddha's teaching of the middle way is also relevant to emotional control. The middle way is the path of moderation, avoiding the extremes of self-indulgence and self-mortification. When applied to emotions, the middle way encourages balance. It does not advocate repressing emotions, nor does it suggest indulging in them. Instead, it teaches one to acknowledge emotions, understand their causes, and let them go without attachment. For example, when faced with anger, the middle way would neither suggest that we suppress the anger nor act out in aggression. Instead, it encourages us to recognize the anger, understand its root, perhaps frustration, fear, or misunderstanding, and mindfully choose how to respond. By walking the middle way, one cultivates emotional intelligence and self-awareness, leading to a calmer and more peaceful life. Conclusion. Buddha's teachings on emotional control. The teachings of the Buddha provide a comprehensive guide to understanding and controlling emotions. The stories of Angulimala and the angry man offer timeless lessons about the nature of emotions, illustrating that even the most intense feelings can be transformed through mindfulness, wisdom, and compassion. In Buddhism, emotional control is not about suppression, but about awareness and understanding. Through practices like mindfulness meditation, one can observe emotions as they arise, recognize their impermanence, and let them go without attachment. By cultivating a balanced mind through the middle way, individuals can navigate the complexities of human emotions with grace and wisdom. Ultimately, Buddha's teachings remind us that emotions are a natural part of life, but they do not have to control us. With mindfulness and compassion, we can learn to master our emotions, leading to a life of inner peace and emotional freedom.